Hi, it's Holly, and today we're going to talk pumpkin pie. Love pumpkin pie. Now, pumpkins actually started here in the Americas, in Central America, 5,500 BC. They started growing these little babies. They weren't as fancy as this, though. This is plastic. That's why it looks so perfect. Now, they're a little bit more, you know, a little less round and a little bit more uneven. You know, kind of like human beings. Not perfect, but yet perfect. You know what I mean? Because they taste amazing, especially when you put them in pie. Now, the pie thing started a little later. About 1536 is when you see pumpkin pie popping up in literary Europe. So they started making something. And the French, you know, because the French and their pastries is so good, they had a recipe where you could alternate pumpkin with apples, and they made like this whole pumpkin pastry thing, which actually sounds really freaking amazing. Might have to try and find that recipe somewhere to show you guys. And then eventually made its way over on the Mayflower, legit, 1620. There were 50 survivors from there, and then they joined the other 90 Native Americans, and they created the first pumpkin pie for the first, what is known as Thanksgiving. Now, Thanksgiving actually didn't become a national holiday till 1863 when Abraham Lincoln said, let's do it. But it was around for about 200 years prior to that. Everyone enjoyed their pie. I mean, why not? So, and then eventually, fast forward up until 1929, this little company out of Chicago, a meat packing plant, decided to pack some pumpkin in a little can, and since 1929, Libby's still today is still making pumpkin pie in a can, and that's what we're going to do today because, quite frankly, I don't know how else to make it. You can, you know, dig out the pumpkin and do the thing and the yada and the whatever, and I'm not a cook, so that's why I rely on Libby's for your best pumpkin pie. Thank you. So that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to add a little, some fun stuff as well to it. So I got the recipe here for you, so if you want to follow along. Now, first thing we got to do is we got to preheat the oven to 425. I got the oven over here. So we're just going to do preheat up to 350. Let's see. This oven's about 20 years old. 425. 445. You know what? I'm at altitude. That oven's old. It works. So we're going to preheat that for about 15 minutes. And it's going to take about that long for me to show you how to put together an amazing pie. And then it's going to go down to 350. And at that point, it's going to cook for about 45 or 50 minutes. Now, I'm going to say 50 because I am at altitude. And again, the oven, she takes a bit. It's just, we call this vintage for a reason. So it'll be done, and then you gotta let it cool for a couple hours. In here, not here. Don't freeze it. Libby's told me so. So don't do that. It'll ruin your fancy pie. So we're gonna start by putting this all together. Now, first we gotta start with the main ingredient is sugar. Why not? Now you can add or subtract based on how sweet you want your pumpkin pie. I'm okay without it too sweet, but they're asking for 3/4 of a cup. This is again, the recipe according to Libby's, and they know what they're talking about because they've been doing it since 1929. So we're gonna start with a little bit of sugar there. Okay, about 3/4 of a cup, and then some salt, about ½ teaspoon of salt. And we'll do that. There we go. ½ teaspoon of salt, and then some ground spices, cinnamon, ginger, and cloves. There's the three that I have here today. So let's see how well these open for me. Cinnamon was easy. That's good. Cinnamon, we want 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. We're going to dig in there and dump that there. Love cinnamon. So good. Ginger and cloves, we're going to do a little less. So for the ginger, we are going to do about ½ teaspoon is all for the ginger. Oh, fabulous. It opened easy too. These things always tend to get stuck when you're trying to show somebody something. It's like when I'm trying to show, I don't know why it is, when I'm at home and I'm trying to show, visiting home, I'm trying to show my mother a video on YouTube or whatever, it freezes up every time. every time. Not kidding. I'm going to show her this video and it's going to freeze up and rotate. She's going to be like, seriously, Holly. And so luckily these are not sticking as I'm showing this to you because I'm happy. We aren't done yet. We still have cloves to do. So we're 2 out of 3. So here's about half a teaspoon of ground ginger, which is so good. So good. And then finally, also cloves, we're going to do even less. Only about a quarter teaspoon of cloves. And it opened. We're golden. Because cloves are strong. So just a tiny bit of cloves. Just enough to give your pie a little kick. Now we're going to do some eggs. 2 large eggs. Pretty easy. I'm going to use actually the glass because this is plastic and this will be a lot easier. Here we go. There's one. Greatest trick ever to not get the shell in. So far so good. I did an omelet last weekend. It was a long Saturday morning. We'll just say that. 2. Rinse my hands off. They're not sticky. And then 1 can of pumpkin. Like I said, Libby's made it easy for us here. So we're going to dump this in here. I used to live in Ireland, and around Thanksgiving, a few students, American students, their parents sent them a can of Libby's pumpkin because they just don't have it in Ireland because they don't have Thanksgiving. We couldn't find anything there. We were actually looking. We looked at Tesco, which is like their local supermarket. Couldn't find it. So God bless those American parents that shipped over the pumpkin. All right. Mix this up just a little bit. Check your email. Check your Facebook feed. Check your Instagram. Where we'll have beautiful pictures of this pie once it's all said and done. So you can go and see what it looks like all finished and stylized. And you're like, geez, Holly, I want to do that for my Thanksgiving. I'll be like, you can. And then also too, 1 can of evaporated milk. We're going to use Nestle Carnation because it was literally sitting right next to the can of pumpkin. So the store decided for me. So there you go. I was like, that'll work. I need a can of evaporated. Oh, done and done. And we're just going to mix this baby up here and get it nice and creamy and smooth. Now, if you are a go-getter and you love to cook and you have like the whole week of Thanksgiving off and your kids are driving you crazy and you're like, okay kids, we need a project. Let's make some pie crust because that takes time. And you could decide to do that, by all means, do it, and then you're going to dump this fancy mix into that pie crust. I, on the other hand, am going to use a nice gluten-free graham cracker crust. I always like the graham cracker crust the best for pumpkin because it soaks in the flavor. It kind of goes in between the, it's not just sitting on top of it. It's actually really wonderful. And now look at this. This is a nice, you can see it through the blue bowl here, but it's a nice, pretty orange color. Nice consistency here. So not too watery, but not too solid either. And we're going to take it and dump it in our pie crust. But before we do that, we're going to add a holly ingredient. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Sailor Jerry spiced around. Just a tiny, tiny bit. Just to give it a little kick. Don't worry if you have kiddos, it'll cook out. Not a lot, but just enough to give it that little extra flavor. So just about, where the little twisty turny thing is and that first twisty turny thing in your cap, that's where I would go to. Is just that amount there. Boom. Dump that in. Or you can do more if you want, whatever, your pie, not mine. And then mix that in a little bit more too, just to give it a little flavor. You're gonna figure out that I like rum, like in everything. Okay, pie crust, the graham cracker pie crust here. Now this is a little smaller one, so if this doesn't fit here, what I also do as well is I take these little muffin pans here, and I also make little pumpkin muffins and stick it in with the pie. Because God forbid if we waste this pumpkin mix. Not happening. Not today. Not on my watch. So we're going to dump the pumpkin pie mix in here. It might actually all fit. We might be good. Not overflowing, because you don't want to overflow. Ooh, getting a little tight. But I think we got it. I may not have to use the muffins. I think we got this. Or you could get 2 crusts and make 2 pies. Because why not? Yeah, we're going to do that there. I think that will do. Fabulous. Alright. Ladies and gents, this is going in for an hour. And then I get dessert. I'm so excited. Alright. My little beeper hasn't gone off quite yet, but when it beeps at me, then I'm going to shift it down again to 350 for about 40 to 50 minutes. Again, I'm at a higher altitude. I'm at like 5280, mile high. So I'm going to do a little longer. If you're down towards sea level, you're probably going to do closer to 40 minutes. I'm also guessing you have a newer oven than I do, so congratulations to you. And so that is that. I'm going to post this little recipe just in case you don't want to drive all the way to the store and find it on the back of the Libby's can. I'll post it for you so you guys can kind of take a look and look it up. And then also to my little something that I added in it as well. So thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this tiny little tutorial and a little backstory on pumpkin pie. And enjoy your Thanksgiving and enjoy your pie. Have a good one.